if you guys are looking for a really good IO content creator to watch while I'm gone, like if you guys are
Jesus Christ. Camera not working great. There we go. Right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are live streaming early today, as there's some big games to watch. So I do apologize. But yeah, we're gonna do our match reaction right now. Obviously, great win yesterday for us, QPR fans. The boys actually showed up in an excellent manner and did really well. I think personally, I don't know about you guys, but I think the game wasn't like best tactically in certain areas, but personally the 3 points is what we needed for sure. Obviously, you know, we've not been great. We've been awful for the past couple of months. We've had some good results and obviously a really bad run in form lately. Let me just sort this chat because the chat's not working. There we go. I can see all of you now. Awesome. Sorry about that, people. So yeah, who we got in the chat? We got Nick already. Hi, matey. How are you, Nick? Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully you've enjoyed last night and the good win that we had. Foley's in the chat. Hey, DB, hope you're well. I'm all good, man. Honestly, I'm all good. Bit coming down, as you can tell, off a high. What a win it was yesterday for sure, definitely. You know, we needed it as fans. You know, listen, look, when with football, and if you're an actual loyal fan to a club, you know, you feel the struggles of, you know, the stress of everything of fuck, what the fuck is going on with us kind of thing, you know. um it's kind of weird as well at the same time, because obviously, you know, for the last couple of months, we in the chat, obviously everyone knows, you know, we've had a mixture of feelings with everyone in the club, obviously in the chat with QPR fans. So everything has been a bit up and down. Obviously everyone has gone, you know, sack Julian. You know, I think Julian should stay. This, that. You know, obviously certain players, blaming certain players and all that. So listen, look, it happens. The only thing that I always do is try and stay positive. I'll always back whatever happens at the club, unless there is definitely something I see that is not great. You know, I'm not happy with the results and the game that we've been playing, but I personally think we have a good side and able to compete up there without, when we have no injuries, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it is injury problems that's put us in a predicament, but I feel like it is up there to blame with many reasons. So yeah, Leicester channel saying we was lucky, but we did the double over them. You know, it's different, obviously, for what everyone sees with their own eyes. Listen, look, Leicester City clearly have a media team that is great, compared to other teams. You got to remember, Leicester City are a big ownership, and what they want to do is represent their fan base around the world, like any other club. But you know, some people just see things differently. It's that simple. I personally think Leicester City's media team are great, but I also think some people can be a bit delusional in football, where they think sometimes possession, passing, and everything is the key to winning games. It's really not. It's, yeah, cool, you could play a beautiful game, but are you going to play that beautiful game in attack as well? You know, defensively, they were okay-ish, but I think they sank real bad when that first goal of ours went in, you know? And the only thing I can say to a team is when you let a goal in just before half-time, you are gonna go in feeling pissed, honestly, real pissed. So I felt like the goal came for us at the right time, but the goal for them came at the wrong time. So yeah. Hi mate, how are you? Eleanor says, well, welcome to chat, Noah. Hopefully you're having a good evening. Oh, sorry, good day. I don't know why I say good evening, usually because we play these bloody match reactions and everything late we do. So yeah, so happy from that win. Sorry I wasn't there. So listen, Eleanor, man, you're totally fine with that. You don't need to apologize. Just glad to say that our streams are looking great. Honestly, you guys kill it each week with the watch-alongs. The match reactions and stuff like that are getting there, but I think everyone loves to tune in to the match, the watch-alongs a lot more. So yeah, big shout out to you guys. Foley says Vale first goal was better than I thought. He worked hard. You know, I'm just gonna keep saying it. Vale, to me, you know, he didn't start off great yesterday, and he didn't start off great against Birmingham. But personally, I think, you know, he is a great young talent. I've said this many seasons, and I'm glad that he signed for QPR. And I've been talking to you guys pretty much half a whole season about him, you know, since we signed him. And obviously you lot know how much I think a valuable asset to the club he is, you know. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's young still. I think, you know, what he's done now with his international, it's going to help him improve and go from there. Because I honestly believe international football does make a difference in a player. You know, it puts a bit more maturity on your name. It does, you know. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. So yeah, he gets to play with some world-class players and learn a lot more under different coaching teams and stuff like that, and he can understand the game a bit more. Look, I'm not saying that he's excellent or brilliant, but he's still growing and understanding what he can do on the pitch. So yeah. Bo says, yeah, stick with JS, we go again next season. Listen, like I've said many times, you know, as QPR fans, you're going to have a different mixture of, with any football club, of what goes on at a club, you know. But until you have information of what's going on in the club, I would say you can't put the blame game on just one person at the end of the day. Listen, look, you know, Julian, all he can do, and whoever his staff are, can put out the game plan and put out, yeah, cool. Certain things can be his responsibility, but it's also down to the players if they're not doing what they're being told. It's that simple. But Julian, I honestly believe he has the credentials and everything to be a part of this club. I'm not saying we're going to be brilliant or excellent and dominate the league, but I honestly think he will be the one to take us up. That's my honest opinion. So yeah, I like Julian. I think he's brilliant. I think he's gonna have to get adjusted to this league a lot. So yeah. Elo says Ronnie was class yesterday. He was alright. The first part of the game was not great. Nick says, interesting to hear your thoughts, DB, on what he done to make and play more freely and not to be so safe. It's the whole team played their best individually, but my man of the match would be Paul Smith. It was a hard one to choose, to be honest. It was a very hard one, Nick, to choose. I know they fold every second half, and it showed yesterday. Did Vale choose Northern Ireland or Republic? I can't remember. I think it was Republic of Ireland. I think Northern Ireland is Paul Smith. Republic of Ireland is Jimmy Dunn, I think. I could be wrong. I'm not too sure. I have to look into it, but yeah. Right, I'm just going to get straight into this match reaction because obviously we are 9-10 minutes into the stream already and we haven't said anything. Well, we have a little bit, but yeah. Personally, like I said, great performance. For attacking wise, it's been a while, but I will admit, we weren't great at the start, but attack wise at the start and throughout the game was really good. That was a change. I really am glad to see that we were attacking. We needed it so much. I think where, you know, 4-4-2 obviously, which has been used in quite a bit this season, You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I will just come out with it and say, look, the only reason why we beat Leicester was not because of performance, it's because Leicester ain't brilliant this season. It's that simple. You know, they may have dominated the game with ball possession, but they're not a brilliant team this season whatsoever. You know, they were shit on the day. It's the only way to say it. Simply say it that way. You know, I'm not saying we weren't shit. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we weren't brilliant, sorry. You know, there was times that we were great. You know, the attacking ability was improved a lot better. I saw things that there was a little notches of where we was at the start of the season for sure. You know, the first goal for Jordan James, which made it 1-0, sorry. Honestly, cracking player. I bigged him up for 2 seasons since he was at Birmingham. I think he's a huge talent. I think he's going to be playing for international. I think he's Welsh, I think it is. Not English. I think he's Welsh. I'm not too sure. But he is a brilliant talent. He has a cracking foot on him. I personally think he could end up like in the categories of Adam Warburton and all of these players there. You know, it was a cracking strike. The only problem was why it was so good was pretty much our defense collapsed. You know, Ronnie and Jimmy weren't in communication. They were apart and they all stuck to one side, and then there was a gap, and obviously Joe Walsh couldn't get to it. You know, the only thing that I'm blaming on that is the fact being is this: Walsh's position was bad because Leicester City were kind of clever of the sun, you know. And this is a simple tactic that we used to use with Lee Camp. We did. And Chelsea were very smart with it as well when, you know, they used the ability of a stadium to kind of maybe get away with certain things. You know, when Chelsea used to come at QPR, they used to, at a certain time of the day, at 3 o'clock, they would switch the thing around, they would. So yeah. It was very interesting, but Walsh and I personally should have wore a hat. That's why Paddy Kenny would wear a hat, and that's why Paddy Kenny was a brilliant keeper for us. I don't know why Joe Walsh... We don't see enough players wearing caps anymore. It's a bit weird, but I honestly believe sunlight and defensive abilities were the problem of that, for sure. You know, they weren't in the best positions. There was a gap on that right where he could shoot, and he saw it, and he took it, and he scored. And it was a freaking great finish. So that made it 1-0. You know, you lot can say I'm talking bollocks if you want, but honestly, that sunlight can be a problem. Honestly, it can. With us, obviously, we kept pushing them. In momentum wise, you can see, obviously, there was a glimpse, and I think for the first 20 minutes it was end to end, very, very, and you know, there was a big difference in the first half right at the end where QPR just dominated them a little bit more with attacking at them, playing the ball a lot more in their half. And then it just come down to luck, in my opinion, where Ronnie saw Harvey Vale in a great position and it went over the top. Harvey Vale with a great touch. It literally cracking chip over the keeper and passed it straight into the net, which is brilliant. I think, you know, I know I've obviously hated on the long balls this season a lot with QPR, but I personally honestly think that when it does go good, it can be brilliant. It really can. It's one of them things. So, yeah, huge shout outs to Harvey Vale and Ronnie Edwards for committing into them. You know, Ronnie got an assist for that. Then obviously I said that the goal came in a worse place for Leicester right at the end of the half. You know, Leicester did go into it in the first couple of minutes, 5 minutes I would say, looking strong. But then Vale had a counter-attack opportunity and he done brilliant with Amadou. And personally, it wasn't a shot. Everyone knows it wasn't a shot. And when it was, it just took a big obviously deflection off Ben Nelson where he dived in for the ball to get rid of it, but it literally went past the keeper. So Ben Nelson with an own goal. Honestly, it was an own goal, but apparently in certain eyes it was a Harvey Vale goal, so not too sure. So obviously, yeah, that went in. I believe Leicester had some opportunities for 5 minutes, and then That's when an excellent corner came in from Vale, and Ronnie Edwards was in a great place to smash it in with his head to make it 3-1. And then after that, literally, Leicester had the opportunities to get back, but they fluffed it. We had a little bit of as well, but that end of that third goal, I think we would say basically, I would say, sat back a little. It got a bit boring. It did, and I think 3-1 was a comfortable result, I think. And yeah, I think it just ended there. And obviously he made some great subs. I think the sub wise was absolutely perfect yesterday. I know a lot of people might moan, obviously at the time being, but I think Poku right now doing what you're doing, and I think he should be doing it till the end of the season. I think he should explain to Poku the circumstances of it, because Poku, I don't want him injured for next season. I really want him to perform, and if it means only playing him for the next couple of weeks or a month for half an hour to give him some time by putting him on in the 70th minute or 20 minutes or whatever it is, I think is a good decision. I think he's shining in Poku. I think yesterday again, he looked really good, like he did at Birmingham. He was trying to push forward a lot more to help the attack go. And I think it was just an excellent substitution. Jonathan Varane for Kieran Morgan. Kieran Morgan has not been great this season. I keep saying it. And his passing ability has been really bad this season. I really hope he does go out on loan and go from there. Jonathan Varane is is very highly rated at QPR. Obviously, he has not had his shining season, which we would hope for, that he's been at. But I think he did okay when he came on. It wasn't a great job, but he did defend really well a little bit. But personally, I would say, price-wise, if we was going to sell him, it's not going to be the same price-wise as what clubs were offering him in January. So, yeah. Obviously, he made some other subs in 84 minutes and 90 minutes. Obviously, Koki Sato came with Paul Smith. Koki Sato was a bit quiet. He did, obviously, keep the ball a couple of times. But, yeah, not much to really say on that. Daniel Benny, though, came on just to waste time. And yeah, give him some game time, I guess. Match rating wise, though, Walsh with 6.7 and Benge 6.6, Dunn 7.1. It looks like man of the match actually went to Edwards, 8.7, Davis with a 7.3, Smith 7.9, Morgan 6.5, Hayden 6.5, Vale 8.5, Colley 6.7, and Kone 7.5. Now, if I was talking about individual performances, like I said, I put a poll out of Paul Smith, Edwards, and Vale. There was controversy of actually putting, I think it was, someone said put Jimmy Dunn in there, I think, or Davis, I can't remember. But everyone voted Vale. They did. Vale, in my opinion, was man of the match. He had an excellent game, but I think Ronnie has been given it because of pretty much the long ball that he did, so yeah. But Paul Smith as well, an excellent performance. Again, like Birmingham City on the weekday. He was excellent yesterday, honestly. I think Paul Smith is in contention to basically be our first team winger for now. He's been excellent, honestly. I like Paul Smith, and he's been absolutely brilliant this season. And I think, personally, yesterday was brilliant as well. I don't know about you guys, but Paul Smith plays, in my opinion, for the badge. He has a lot of heart, and he loves the club. So big ups to him. Kone, though, there was a bit, obviously, listen, look, he did not shine in the sense of goal scoring, but I will say this, he did hold up the ball pretty well. I will say that he holded up the ball pretty well. I don't think we actually noticed him to be a striker yesterday. It was more of a centre forward. Colley was pretty quiet, but he had opportunities. Colley did. He did have opportunities. So yeah. Amadou, I'm not a big fan of him at right back at the moment still. But he did well to push on the attacks. Davis, though, big improvement yesterday. I think that was excellent. So big outs to him. Joe Walsh, though, obviously, I think Julian loves the guy. Personally, I miss Paul Nardi a lot. I really like Paul Nardi. I think he's a brilliant keeper. But yeah, on the sub-wise, Jonathan Varane and Poku both got a 6, either 6.6 and 6.3, and that's about it. Their shining player was Mavididi. Honestly, excellent player. He did his best, but I believe, honestly, most of the players there, apart from obviously Jordan James, weren't really there. Hamza Chowdhury as well, honestly, I would say could have improved his rating, but they're being a bit harsh on him, I think, because of the loss. So yeah, obviously ball possession wise, Leicester dominated the game 62% to 38. Expected goals, we were higher with 1.65. Total shots 14 for us, 9 to them. Big chances, 2 for us, 0 to them. The only thing that I was disappointed with is obviously what needs to be fixed this season, or ready for next season, is our accurate passes. I'm not too bothered about how many passes we make. I'm more bothered about the sense of accurate passes, because each week now we've been under 75 and below. 244 accurate passes out of 90 minutes is not great. It's actually appalling. A lot of the time, depending on obviously what the passing game is like, but it could be improved if there were certain players that weren't just giving the ball away, such as Kieran Morgan, Jonathan Varane, and players like that. So yeah, let's have a look at the comments quickly with what I've missed, because I know you lot are killing the chat at the moment. Let's see where we left off. Like I said, Nick says, previously there are some conversations to be had on ins and outs, but I'm convinced that one of the first outs after Nardi should be Collie as great one match and have 3 or 4 bad ones. Listen, look, I personally think Collie is having a Sinclair moment right now, where I think Marty didn't really like Sinclair. I think Sinclair for me was a lot greedy, and I think he was a good talent, but he wasn't a winger, he was a striker. The amount of greediness he had, he was definitely a striker, and I think that to me is brilliant. But if you're playing him as a left winger or a right winger, you're not going to get the best out of him. So yeah, personally, I think we wanted the money for him and we got it, and it went from there. But Collie, I think, is in the same scenario right now. Yeah, bring Nardi back, Foley says. Walsh should have done better with that James shot. He should have, for sure, position-wise. I'm not, like I said, I wasn't making the sunlight a big excuse, but it can make a big difference. It can. Robert says, mate, the ball bypassed midfield and they had a forward who can shoot. Well, technically, Jordan James is not a forward, he's a midfielder, for starters. Yeah, we was too open in defence. I said that and I agreed with that. And I was just pointing out, sometimes sunlight can be a big factor. So yeah, that first half was very poor. We were lucky not to be 2-0 down after 30 minutes. Fair enough. Is it Portsmouth next? It is. Yes, Foley, Nick says 3 p.m. Cheers, Nick. Overall, there was some improvement, and you're right. When we get our players back from injury, we'll be a force to be feared. I would say that we wouldn't be a force to be feared, but we would be a lot better in a stance of substitutions and a lot more in attack. So that for me is more important. If this new signing is ready to come on in against Portsmouth, I really can't wait to watch him play. Obviously, it's going to be interesting. He will be on the bench probably, and obviously go from there. If he does score on his debut, happy days, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, is that Dunn getting his 200th appearance shirt on? Yeah, that is. So first of all, I would say big shouts to Jimmy Dunn. He's been a loyal player at this club. He loves this club. He signed a new contract in at the start of the season, which I think everyone was really worried about losing him, because he was a valuable asset to QPR with Marty Fuentes. He's great. I think since he was at Man United as a kid, there were some really, really dangerous players coming through there. And I really think us getting a hold of him when I think it was Mark Warburton was in charge was absolutely brilliant decision. But Mark Warburton didn't really play him in the best position because, Rob Dickey. was there. Captain Fantastic was nice not to see Kone in defense. That was DB. You need to watch the game against Kone. Done nothing on 2 occasions, but we bypassed their defense and he was a yard in front, but was too slow. He just about held himself up. Listen, I literally, all I said was this, right? I said he held the ball up. That was it, right? Yes, I agree in the sense of, you know, I would love to see more out of him in the sense of what he's like, obviously scoring goals in them factors by getting past players, dribbling wise. Obviously, we know he's not the best at, but scoring goals is the main factor of his ability and why we bring in a striker. But at the end of the day, all I was saying was is an improvement in the sense of where he was holding up the ball and not losing it so much, and he wasn't trying to take on players, you know. And I agree with you 100%. But the key factor is this, what I say to everyone, and this is why also I get annoyed about fans with what they say about, is we first need to know what Julian's plan is before we even judge. I know what we want to see, but at the end of the day, we need to kind of see what Julian's doing. You know, if he was playing Kone as a centre forward when Burrell was scoring, you know, Kone was doing an excellent job in holding the ball up and providing it. Obviously, yeah, I would love to see Kone score goals, but if he's contributing in goals, then that's another big thing as well. You know, I haven't said Kone's had an excellent set, you know, I've agreed with you in the sense of I believe Kone has not been brilliant this season. You know, honestly, I agree with you on that, but I'm just saying yesterday he held up the ball pretty well, and I think you got to show some positivity when there's negativity sometimes, you know. We can't kill players all the time, you know. Look, no one has gone on and said anything about Kieran Morgan's passing, you know. It's a big factor, passing is in football, you know, and he's given the ball away a lot of times. So, yeah, I think we need to kind of stop hating on one single player and understand what the team is doing as well. You know, the defense were absolutely shambles at the start. You know, Jimmy Dunn and Ronnie weren't great whatsoever until about half an hour into the game. It improved. So yeah. Nick says, to be fair with my comment about Collie, I still think if he stays, he would be a backup, but only as a winger, not a forward. I think Collie is better as a winger than a striker on the right. I think he performs a lot better on the right, just because of, obviously, who is next to him on that side. But I honestly think he will leave soon. I don't see him staying at the club because I just don't think Julian is a big fan of him. Otherwise, he'd be playing right now. So, yeah. Can we push on now until the end of the season? Another win against Porth will see us pretty much safe. I'll be honest, I think we're safe already. I think we're safe already. You know, I know point-wise we're not, but I honestly just think we still need to understand, you know, like what we're going to do in the future. You know, I really want to see us win some more games, but I personally still think we won't get relegated. We have too much of a good squad, in my opinion. So yeah, for me, Nuri does need to fine tune the game model in the summer in terms of playing style. We have to move away from playing possession based football. I'll be honest, I don't even think we're trying to play possession based football because we're not even getting any stats up there with possession. You know, I don't know what the game plan. Look, the fact is this, right? I can only go by with what Nuri says in his interviews, and if his interviews are saying we want to play this attacking game, I generally think we're not doing it right now. You know, to play an attacking game, you need to see more percentage in their half, you know, which is not happening. So yeah, but great comment. I like that comment, was sick. Yeah, but Kieran Morgan scores screamers. Listen, look, Kieran Morgan is a fantastic player. He's a great young talent, and a lot of people are aware of this. Not even just at our club, at other clubs. But I'm just saying a loan move would be great. But if we're going to go out, and I know he's young and all that, but if we're going to just go out and blame certain players, you know, there's certain players that need to be blamed properly, you know. I could go out every game and say, oh, Jonathan Rang, you're fucking shit. Kieran Morgan, you're fucking shit. Davis, you're shit. Ronnie, you've been shit. You know, those type of things. But I don't, because obviously I'm not here to do the hatred thing on players. At the end of the day, yes, Kieran Morgan is a growing player. He needs loan, he needs time, and he needs experience. But when we go and kill Kone all the time, yeah, I get it. He hasn't scored, he hasn't performed, and all that. But I'm not going to go and sit here and say shit because he's proven himself in League One. From League One to Championship is a big thing. And he has proven that to score goals at the start of the season. And I honestly believe Kone will eventually get there in time. Agree, DB, about Kone. Nick says, but seriously though, he is still young and learning. I get it, yeah, 100%. Love to see Obuku against Portsmouth and with Kone. I just want to see Kone not play against Portsmouth. I just want to see him try to play a different striker up front and see how it does. You know, Kone, for me, needs a big rest. You know, he's been playing every game all season pretty much, and he needs a big rest. So for me, I personally would state that playing a different player up front, Collie, Daniel Benny, whoever it is, just try it. Personally, I don't think Daniel Benny is a striker. I think he's a winger. But yeah, I like to see. I think Obuku is going to do well at QPR, but not until next season, I would say. I reckon he's going to end up doing a Burrell. I don't know why. I just honestly can see it happening yet again. You know, Julian seems to do well with all these fast-paced players that are doing well at the club. So yeah. If Obuku plays and does well in the remaining games, it looks promising next season with 3 forwards at the club. I agree, 100%. I agree with that. You know, Kone, Obuku, and Burrell, you know, I've seen that people are more looking at the financial ability of it than the actual talent. I can tell it again. Ability of how they play. You know, Burrell apparently, obviously we bought for 1-2 million, whatever it was, and right now apparently he's worth like 5 million. But personally, I would like to see him at the club for a very long time, a while more longer, because he does remind me of a player that I think can really do well in every league. Will we see Burrell back this season? I don't think so. Burrell, they're saying Burrell will be back right like end of April, maybe at the start of April. But personally, I would just put him on the bench and see how he does. I've not actually noticed someone to have been stamped on before in the hammies and be that bad. The only thing I can think of is if he's had surgery and no one said anything about it. So yeah. I want to see Burrell back for sure though, soon. You know, I think mainly for me, I just want to know what's going on with Elias Chair, because ever since Chair has been injured, we have been lacking creativity. You know, we've not been anywhere on the attacks since then. You know, it's been weird. It's just been really frustrating, you know, and I'm surprised we didn't bring anyone in January for that, you know. So yeah, you know, we could play Kieran Morgan there, but I think Kieran Morgan is preferred as a defensive midfielder than a defensive player. So yeah. There are no thoughts on whether they will keep Sandfield or let him go. They'll let him go. They'll let him go. I think Sandfield, if Sandfield is not getting first team right now, he's not going to get first team next season. There's a reason for it, and that's why we sent him out on loan, because obviously his representatives weren't happy with how he was playing. Listen, if Norwich get into the playoffs and they do something, they might very well be like, you know what, let's sign him. I genuinely think they might go in for him. So yeah. Connor Wells says this whole Chair saga is very confusing. It really is. Nothing has been said about anything on it. You know, he was meant to be back playing a long time, like a month ago. I genuinely don't know what's going on. I'm hoping we get news soon. But if he doesn't play by the end of March or even in April, I'm telling you right now, we're probably going to get a statement at the end of the season telling us, right, he's leaving or something like that, or something's happened at the club. So yeah. Hope we bring Phil back. He's playing out of his socks at Norwich. He's playing out of his socks because he's such a brilliant player, man. but for some reason, I don't know how he didn't get into the team with Julian. So yeah, I think Field will be let go, and we will end up getting a decent fee for him. Robert says we should have kept Field, but for some reason they want to let him go. It's not even just letting him go; it's just the fact being as representatives about basically coming out and saying they're not happy with his you know, they're not, he's like, we're not playing him basically, and they promised him a loan move in January, and if it was a right loan move, and obviously Norwich came in and he wanted Norwich, and he decided to go to Norwich on loan. You know, I like Sandfield, I think he's brilliant, but this, for some reason, if we're not playing him, you know, if we're putting players like Hayden and all of that, you know, I don't know if we'll see Madsen at all this season. I think he's done with now. So yeah. Let's not let Field go cheap then. Look, Field is worth at least 3 to 4 million. But it depending on what the board think and go from there. I know that he is probably out of contract soon. So yeah. Agree DB about Chair. How old is Field? I think Field is like 28, 29. He is 28, 29. He is getting on. He's still a good age in my opinion for a midfielder. But the only reason why I like him is because he plays to the badge. He does. He has so much energy. He's a very box to box player, you know, and that's what we kind of miss in Madsen a lot since he's been gone. So yeah. But personally, I think we need to just look at this right now and say, you know, the players that we have right now is all we can look out for and go from there. You know, we have Portsmouth on next week. We do. When is the actual game actually for Portsmouth? 21st of March at 3 o'clock. So next week. I think this is the last one. I think this is the last one for a while, for 2 weeks. I think the international break is back. Let me have a look. I think the international break is back at the end of March, right? Yeah. So yeah, Portsmouth is the last game, and then we have England, and then we're back on Good Friday. We are against Watford at home, 3 p.m. kickoff on a Friday. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if we'll be available for that one. If it's at 3 o'clock, we do have work. That's if we have it off though. I'm not too sure what's going on, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, he just signed DB for what was that? He just signed. I can't. I think did he sign last season or at the start of the season? I can't remember. I think he signed last season. I'm not too sure. I know Jimmy done sign this season, so yeah. I'm not too sure. I'll be honest. I'm not too sure. But yeah. He just yeah, international break. I don't see us making any major changes in the summer apart from maybe 4 or 5. Like I said to this at the start, I personally will say this: we're not gonna make any key signings unless signings are gone. You know, if we need to sell this season, I personally think, to bring players in. It's that simple. We haven't sold a player apart from I'm trying to, you know, obviously we sold Frey, we've sold Thing. I personally think this right now, right? Not Frey, I think Ilya Share might go. I think Seller will be sold, and I honestly think Sandfield will be sold. 3 key players, that'll probably be bringing in about 7 to 8 million, I would say. And, you know, obviously with the Eze stuff and all of that, and obviously Ronnie Edwards obviously being signed for 4 million or whatever it is. You know, we've had a great windows in the last couple of seasons. You know, if we could grab another great window this season, the season coming, it would be great. But we all know what Nuri does. So what I would say is this: you know, there is a same strategic thing with QPR. You know, what they will do is this, right? They will go on and end the season. It would be pretty much all development squad. You know, you'll see probably women and development squad come in for sure. That'll be the key factor. They'll look at freebies, they'll look at cheapies and run out of contracts next year. So that'll be the main factor. So renewing contracts and free agents will be the big thing in after the end of the season. And then that's when you'll bring in the big players. So as you remember, you know, we brought in Poku and then Benge right at the start before the season started, the preseason started. We did, which they all went out on to the I think it was the Portugal tournament thing. So yeah, I personally think we'll have the same type of thing, the same thing as what we have had in the last couple of seasons. So yeah, you know, I think we've got a okay budget still left to sign some decent players, but it's basically all down and around to what we need and what we're going to bring in talent wise. So I honestly think we're lacking experience. You know, we'll talk about this more in a different stream. We will in an actual stream at the end of the season. But I still personally think there is experience we're lacking, you know. It's all cool to sign young players, but we're actually generally lacking in experience, I would say. You know, first things first, the goalkeeper situation wise, you know, if Cooper Murphy is actually coming back to the club to play, excellent. I love to see that. Personally, I would say if we're going to get rid of keepers, Ben Hamer, Paul Nardi, get rid of them. And I would personally say this to Nuri right now: have a look at the Stoke keeper. What's his name? I've been bragging about this keeper for 2 seasons, man. This keeper is extraordinary. What is his name though? Victor Johansson. Victor Johansson is a cracking keeper that I think is absolutely great at reflexes, shot stopping, all of that stuff. You know, if we're gonna bring in a keeper, we need to bring him in. You know, he's 27 years old. You know, I still think honestly he's still gonna improve the game. You know, if we're gonna think about Premier League football, Victor Johansson is the way to go, in my opinion, with goalkeepers. You know, excellent keeper in the Championship. He's absolutely superb. I think we need to go for him, honestly. If we're gonna bring in a new keeper, Victor Johansson is the only person I really want to see us go for. Then again, if we're looking at defensive players, we need a right back. Like I said, there's a big player in Arsenal at the moment, a young big player that I think would mature really well in the club. So that's that. Left back is a big scenario because obviously Ziyad Lakesh is injured. Hopefully he returns. But I really like Ziyad Lakesh. I think he'll be an excellent addition when he does come back. And yeah, I think that is the main thing really to build on the defense. But on attack wise, I think the only thing we need to build on attack is a creative player. We need a creative player in that team. And right now, I feel like we're only going to have to spend money on that. You know, we need to spend money on a creative player. I think we need to look at the same scenarios in the sense of whether we're bringing someone young in from the academy, or are we going to be bringing in someone from a team. You know, I'm a huge fan of you know, I know he's young at the moment. I'm not saying first team at the moment, but there is a guy called Barton. Is it Barton? For Cambridge United, I think it is, who is an excellent player. I think he's very talented, and I think honestly bringing him in for the future will be great. I think, I'll be honest, if something happens to Stoke, right, you might kill me for saying this, but I think there's a couple of players you can actually bring in Stoke, you know. I personally think Manhoof is an excellent playmaker, creative player. He would be a great addition to the club. He would. But yeah, I think we need to look at also what kind of teams are going to get relegated from the Championship as well, and maybe raid them. That would be very interesting to see. But there is some cracking players that we can actually look for, and could very well go for cheap. So yeah. But like I said, we'll talk more about that in the future. Obviously, you know, if anyone shout outs Max Dowman, you know, we're definitely not going to get him for sure on loan. That's definitely a thing, you know. So yeah, another pacey winger on the left wouldn't go amiss. I would personally say this: if we're not going to go for a creative player, we need to put Sato in the middle and probably bring in a winger for sure. So yeah, if you get rid of Sam for 3 or 4 million, then I would let Field go for sure. I would say probably 2 to 3 million would be a reasonable price. Walsh and Lakesh could save QPR money, so only really need a quality right back, box-to-box midfielder who scores. It depends on the playing style of the box-to-box midfielder. You know, I think Madsen is that box-to-box midfielder. You know, there's obviously talks of Iran with other clubs as well, so have a look at that as well. Sam Tackle is another keeper I would like us to look at. Sam Tickle. I think I've heard that name. Let me have a look. Sam Tickle. I think I've heard of that name. Is he on loan at Sheffield United? Oh, he's a Wigan. Is he play for Wigan? Samuel Lloyd Tickle, very young, actually, very young. Plays for Wigan. Okay, is he an actual Wigan player or is he on loan at Wigan? So yeah, apparently Sheffield United are interested in him. I think I've heard things about him from people that I know. He's 23 years old, so same age as Joe Walsh. That's pretty handy. So yeah. Nick says Poku is our most creative player. I'm convinced he'll be our new Chris Willock and close to a Delta Rapt. Very good. I wouldn't compare him to Delta Rapt, but I would say very, very close to Trapped in the sense of scoring wise for sure. Definitely. He's a Wigan player. Okay. Well, it looks like Sheffield United are chasing him, and no doubtly that might happen because we all know Chris Wilder likes good talented keepers, and you know he works very well with them. Obviously everyone knows he's done a great job with Henderson, Ramsdale, and some others there. So yeah. But personally, right now, I think we shouldn't really look into it too much. What we need to do is get the season over and see what obviously he wants to get rid of and what he wants to bring in, and then go from there. We will be obviously looking in international market as always to see what's cheap to bring in, as you all know. And I'm hoping he brings in some decent talent. So yeah. But apart from that, we've gone on for almost an hour yet again. Jeez. We're actually killing these streams now, to be honest. So yeah. But on that note, we'll talk more about that at the end of the season. So yeah. Right now, we're gonna leave it here with this. So QPR obviously have beaten Leicester City 3-1 at King Power. Great game, great end to our form, I would say. You know, is it going to continue? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we've got a lot to do, a lot to work on still. Portsmouth in a week's time. Let's beat Portsmouth at home, get the 3 points, and work on getting everyone back to fitness after the international break. And yeah, just finish the rest of the season off on a high, and finish in the top 12 would be great. You know, we can still do it, I believe. You know, playoff wise, let's not think too much into that. But next season will be a lot better because playoffs will be a bit better for us. And then we'll go from there. So yeah, apart from that, thank you all for tuning in. Shout outs to Nick, Foley, Connor, Eleanor, who else sent to the chat. Obviously Robert, as always. Love chatting with Robert. Absolutely great QPR fan right there. Foley, all of you as well. You're all great, honestly. Supporting the channel. You know, we'll be back with our match preview for Portsmouth next week. I don't know whether it'll be live yet or pre-recorded. We'll see what happens. I love interacting with you guys, but sometimes, you know, it's all about timing and all that, you know, with all of that. Anyway, apart from that, have a great weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. Look forward to having work tomorrow, I guess. Peace out, positivity. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to. And we'll catch you next time. Catch you lot in a bit. Come yours.